Hey all, WebCamParrot here, to talk about the incredible powers of Dr. Ivo's Amazo. Now I feel like the DCAU Amazo gets a lot of credit, which to be fair, he does deserve. Definitely one of the better and stronger characters in that series. But because of this, comic book Amazo is often overlooked, with some even going as far as to say that his animated counterpart is simply superior. Well, I'm here to try and dispel that myth by showing just how powerful and intriguing the original Amazo is. You will have to bear with me through all the goofy Silver Age stuff first though. Not to say that the Silver Age doesn't have its own charm, but well, you'll see. In this video, I'll be going over his best feats and statements from the Silver Age and up until his last appearance in PostCrisis. Amazo would first appear in Brave and the Bold issue 30 in 1960. In this comic, each member of the Justice League would start to see their powers fluctuate at crucial moments in their independent missions. Whilst this is going on, the Flash realises that a spree of robberies has been occurring recently, all connected to animals with incredibly long lifespans. The League discusses these strange robberies and suspects that an attempt is being made to create a potion of immortality. Each of the League members then splits up to defend a different location and animal, with Wonder Woman being the first to confront him. We see Amazo for the first time, where he boasts that he has all the powers of the Justice League, explaining the fluctuations earlier and claiming that Wonder Woman cannot possibly hope to defeat him. He easily defeats Diana, along with the world's oldest man, kidnapping both of them and taking Wonder Woman back to Ivo to have her powers removed forever. Amazo confronts Aquaman and Hal Jordan in their attempts to protect the world's oldest turtle. At first, Hal Jordan is able to prevent him from reaching the turtle using a barrier made from his Green Lantern ring, but Amazo is able to use his super speed to collect gold from the ocean, completely covering himself. There's not much gold in the ocean, but he's able to move so fast that he collects a meaningful amount of it anyway. Now that he was yellow, Hal Jordan's power ring is useless against Amazo, who promptly defeats both him and Aquaman, capturing all three of them and sending them back to Dr. Ivo. I know the yellow thing seems weird, but back then, Green Lantern rings did not work on yellow things for whatever reason. It's the 60s, you know. In an attempt to protect the world's oldest owl, Martian Manhunter would be defeated by Amazo using Wonder Woman's lasso, and the Flash would be driven into the boat of a waiting Dr. Ivo, who then roofies him. Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, the Flash, Aquaman, and Hal Jordan would all have their powers permanently drained and fed into Amazo. However, Hal Jordan is able to retain his powers by, I kid you not, breathing out some of the chlorine gas that Ivo used to knock them out, which is yellow, preventing Amazo's Green Lantern powers from working on him and stealing them. Hal then phases through the wall, stealing all of Amazo's powers right back with his ring and freeing the rest of the Justice League, effectively defeating Dr. Ivo and his creation. Next, in Justice League of America 27, the Justice League would face off against a very unusual foe known only as I. I is a strange and incredibly powerful being from another dimension. For whatever reason, anytime the Justice League solves a crime together, it adds to something known as the Robber Force, which given time will eventually kill I. As a result, I removes the success factor of the Justice League, which essentially means that as long as they work together, the Justice League will never again be able to fight crime as a team. Naturally, the League collectively decide that they have to kill this entity as soon as earthly possible, even though they could just easily split up and work as independent heroes again, which they did for years. No, this completely random and innocent alien must die for the sake of teamwork. Yay Justice League. Snapper, being the murderous piece of trash that he is, comes up with the plan of giving all of their powers to Amazo so that he can succeed for them, thereby creating more Rubber Force, killing I, and giving them all their success factor back. This works, but now there is a new problem. How do the Justice League deal with Amazo? Well, Hal Jordan simply reveals that he mentally willed the defeat factors in their bodies into Amazo the moment it was displaced by their returning success factor, essentially making it impossible for Amazo to win. You can even see Snapper playing his part there on Amazo's arm. After his defeat, Hal then drains Amazo of their powers, once again using his power ring. Yes, Silver Age Hal Jordan is the dumbest thing ever. I am also okay with it. Later in Justice League of America 65, Amazo would be used by Dr. Tomorrow, who uses him along with several others to defeat the Justice League, returning him to his case when he is done with him. And we don't really see Amazo do anything else in this comic. In another story, Justice League of America 112, the Justice League would find themselves without half of their powers thanks to Libra having previously drained them. So they plan to utilize Amazo to regain their powers, even upgrading him in the process, implanting an idea in his head that he is dying from a disease that only the Justice League can cure. Yeah, the Silver Age Justice League were dicks, I know. First, the Flash, Black Canary, and Elongated Man confront him, with the fake cure in their possession. Amazo easily defeats them using their own powers, even using them to a higher extent than the originals could, with it being stated that he was growing stronger with every passing second. The cure would then be passed on to Superman, Aquaman, and Green Arrow, who would also promptly be defeated by Amazo, utilizing Hal Jordan's lantern powers and Aquaman's control of aquatic life. Next, Red Tornado would be easily punched out, and Hal and Amazo would engage in a battle of wills, with Amazo easily winning, stating that he has 6 times the willpower of Hal Jordan. I can only assume that he's talking about like the willpower of the Justice League that he now possesses thanks to his abilities, but there are like way more than 6 of them, like even here, so, you know, somebody isn't pulling their weight, you know, I'm just saying. Barry. The cure was in fact an off switch, and so upon using it, Amazo would actually turn himself off. However, neither the reader nor the Justice League could predict that Amazo had also copied Batman's deductive ability and had figured out their plan from the beginning, only pretending to press the button. But Batman himself was a step ahead, turning on the machine before Amazo could do anything, with the resulting feedback instead defeating him. Amazo would next be seen in DC Superstars issue 10. Amazo is seen fighting Superman with Lex Luthor, utilizing the Flash's, the Atom's, and Green Lantern's powers to momentarily overwhelm Superman. However, they would be pulled away by what would happen next. Now, Amazo isn't super relevant to this story, but it is pretty great, and I doubt I'll get a chance to talk about it in another video, so I figure I'll go over it here anyway. Sportsmaster and the Huntress are having a disagreement, with Huntress saying that she's tired of being a villain because the villains never get to win. This completely surprisingly leads to Sportsmaster challenging her to a baseball game, with a team of villains on one side and a team of heroes on the other, saying that he'll prove that villains can win too. Lex Luthor advocates for Amazo to be the umpire. Since he's an android, he will call it as he sees it, reckons Luthor. Which is total muck, by the way, but, you know, it works out. The game is going fairly normal at first, and then the cheating begins. Tattooed Man starts using his tattoos to throw the ball strangely, making it impossible for Batman or Robin to hit properly. Felix Faust teleports the ball into his hands, and Lex uses a technologically advanced vibrating bat to prevent the ball from ever passing the plate. Weather Wizard creates a storm just over Wonder Woman, who starts using her lasso to, like, fan Lex Luthor closer, using like the air it displaces, and then Wally West uses his super speed, catching Luthor out. Joker uses his laughing gas to incapacitate Green Arrow, and Kronos speeds up time for his teammates and slows it down for the heroes. Matter Master gives the baseball a Red Bull, and Green Arrow shoots it out of the air. It looks as if the villains are about to win until Plastic Man disguises his foot as the plate, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Amazo was totally fine with all of this cheating, by the way, and even commends Plastic Man, saying he tricked Sportsmaster in a grandly villainous manner. After all, Amazo does call it as he sees it. The game ends, proving that the heroes will ultimately always come out on top, and then Amazo is promptly defeated by Superman, along with several other villains losing to their hero counterparts. From Action Comics 480 to 483, we would see Amazo awaken to immediately challenge Superman to a battle to the death, as he has nothing better to do anyway. Superman is worried, knowing that Amazo possesses the power of every single Justice League member. Superman attempts to hit him, and is surprised as he bounces right off of Amazo's Green Lantern shield, something he has been able to punch through before against Hal Jordan. Using a combination of a meteor, Superman's heat vision, and Elongated Man's powers, he sends the Man of Steel flying down towards the Earth, knocking him out in the process. As it turns out, Superman had actually been weakened by the same red sun radiation that had awakened Amazo in the first place, which was how the android was able to defeat him so easily. Despite having Kryptonian powers, this red sunlight strangely empowered Amazo rather than weakening him. Using a combination of Green Lantern's power ring and Superman's super willpower, he is able to transport the rest of the Justice League to a dimension which they could not escape from. And by the way, this does raise an interesting proposition. If Superman does in fact have super willpower, and Amazo still only had 6 times the willpower of Hal Jordan, there's definitely something going on. Like, I'm just saying that there's something going on with the Justice League. Some members of them maybe don't have as much willpower as the others, really slacking. Could be anybody, Barry. Superman as Clark Kent runs into Dr. Ivo, with the latter telling him to contact Superman as he knows Amazo will come for him. And Amazo does just that, kidnapping Ivo and flying away with him. Superman gets a hold of Ivo, but now his powers are almost completely gone thanks to the red sun radiation, and Amazo is now bearing down on him, claiming that Ivo programmed him to be completely without mercy. It seems as though Superman and Ivo were utterly obliterated by Amazo. However, he had a Kryptonian teleporter cube in his mouth, which he used to quickly get them both to safety. Amazo tracks Superman using his super hearing and Green Lantern's ring, eventually using the Flash's intangibility to slip into his DMs, the Fortress of Solitude. Superman releases, and I am not joking, a giant goddamn snake to distract Amazo long enough for him to get into the Supermobile to confront him. Amazo defeats the snake practically instantly using Elongated Man's stretching powers and Black Canary's scream, and then contemplates using a combination of super strength, super breath, a power beam, and his speed vibrations to bust down the door Superman fled through, only for the Supermobile to come crashing through before he can. Amazo reacts quickly, however, and is able to catch the Supermobile using the Lasso of Truth. They fight for a while as the Supermobile is just as strong as Superman, for some reason, and Amazo uses an illusion to escape from him, deciding instead to come up with a new plan of attack by targeting Superman's closest friends. Superman is able to save Lois and the others, with it being revealed that Amazo was using Martian Manhunter's powers this whole time, explaining why he wasn't depowered by the red sun radiation. Amazo then kicks the Supermobile so hard that they ascend into a hyperspace barrier. Ivo reveals he has been inside Superman's pocket the entire time, shrunk down. Izo turns himself in, with Amazo unshrinking him using his power ring, only for Superman to suddenly come to a revelation using his powers to bury Amazo in the dirt. As it turns out, Amazo's kick was so powerful that they had been sent through the time barrier and were now 5 days in the future, explaining how Superman's powers had returned to him. The Silver Age, man. Ugh. Amazo follows them back to the Earth, and it's essentially revealed that the red sun radiation has been preventing everyone on Earth from sleeping. Superman is forced to intervene, saving some civilians, with Amazo even helping, stating that he didn't see a reason for the humans to perish. Amazo also claims that he has been annoyed this whole time, basically just because he feels as if he was awakened for no reason, and longs for the oblivion of sleep again. Superman promises to prove that Ivo was not the one that awakened him, and that it is no one's fault, with Amazo agreeing that this will be enough to placate him and free the rest of the Justice League. However, Amazo later reveals that it is actually impossible for him to bring them back, as his powers are fading now, along with the red sun radiation. The Justice League are able to free themselves, however, using their combined willpower, and they all promptly jump on Amazo as he is weakening, beating the tar out of him. Amazo feels betrayed as he was starting to view Superman as an ally. Yes, once again, the Silver Age Justice League are massive jerks. Amazo would next appear in Justice League of America 191, where the Key finds and awakens Amazo, who immediately tries to turn on him, only to be easily deactivated by his Key-based powers. The Justice League's powers, again, start to fluctuate, with them holding a meeting to discover what is going on, realizing that it can only be Amazo. It is then revealed that the Key wants to drain the Justice League's powers so he can return his tiny mini body to normal. He then uses Amazo to confront the Justice League, but they have prepared for this encounter, bringing along a device which will drain Amazo of his powers. Despite this, they are losing badly at first, with Amazo even using Zatanna's backwards magic. Gradually, the League begins to win, however, as Amazo loses his powers, eventually defeating him. Zatanna then cures the Key of his tiny status forever with her magic. In Superman Special Issue 3, Dr. Ivor's immortality serum has begun to corrupt his body, turning him into a strange lizard-like monstrosity. Ivo wakes up Amazo, telling him to capture Superman so Ivo can steal his vitality, claiming that Amazo only lacks the powers of Firestorm and so he should have no trouble. Amazo lures Superman out, threatening to attack innocents if he doesn't face him. Amazo and Superman fight for a time, trading blows back and forth, with Amazo using a wide array of different powers from the Justice League. Superman is aware that Amazo is holding back, as Amazo is trying to bring Superman in alive, with Superman himself being unable to go all out because of his recent problems with his secret identity being potentially revealed. Amazo realizes that as they continue, they will only ever be able to stalemate, and so attempts to gain more power to tip the scales in his favor. Amazo heads to the Fortress of Solitude in pursuit of more power, which he gains off-panel, defeating Superman and placing him within the vitality-draining machine, only for it to suddenly explode. Superman reveals that Amazo had attempted to steal the powers from the people of the Bottle City of Kandor, not realizing that the Bottle City was actually a replica and not the real original, with no people and therefore no powers to steal. Superman then stops holding back, easily defeating the android and reprogramming him to trick Ivo, who is then promptly defeated. Next is Justice League of America issues 241 to 243, where we see Amazo show off a previously unseen ability to wholly absorb the bodies of others, starting with a drunk known as Jake McGregor. Amazo would continue to rampage through the rest of the town, drawing the attention of the Justice League, who would move to intervene. It's revealed that Amazo not only absorbed Jake's body, but also his personality, now believing himself to be Jake McGregor. This new Jake Mazo quickly defeats Martian Manhunter, Elongated Man, Zatanna, Gypsy, Vixen, Commander Steel, and Vibe by an assortment of their own powers used by this new Jake Mazo. We see that Amazo was awoken by the impact of a red kryptonite meteor, which pushed him to absorb Jake McGregor's mind. The group of heroes I mentioned prior again attempt to stop Jake Mazo, this time with Aquaman's help, only to be defeated again. They would ultimately defeat Jake Mazo when Martian Manhunter would use his morphing powers to disguise himself as Jake McGregor, putting Amazo into a logical dead-end loop, leaving the android catatonic. Amazo's first post-crisis appearance would be in Justice League Quarterly issue 12. I'll be calling this Amazo Red Mazo based on his appearance and to distinct him from the original Amazo. A corporate-owned superhero group known as the New Conglomerate would decide to create a new, redder Amazo to test the limits of the team against a genuine threat. This of course immediately goes wrong, and Red Mazo starts to rampage not long after his creation. The New Conglomerate attempt to confront Amazo, and as they are fighting, Amazo starts to drain the powers from them. A few members of the New Conglomerate realize that they recognize this android as a villain with the powers of the entire Justice League, calling him the One-Man Justice League. The New Conglomerate would eventually succeed by baiting Red Mazo into using all of his power in one go, leaving him vulnerable to their efforts and allowing them to defeat him. His second post-crisis appearance would be in a comic called Aztec, The Ultimate Man, issue 10. Dr. Ivo is starting to die without his immortality serum, and seems to be the one originally responsible for the creation of Red Mazo for the New Conglomerate. Red Mazo unleashes a preemptive strike on the Justice League, trapping them within their moon base using the Green Lantern's powers so he can go and meet with his master. Aztec goes to confront Red Mazo at the hospital as the Justice League attempt to escape from their prison. Wonder Woman realizes that Red Mazo only has the powers of the original Justice League, meaning that he is using Hal Jordan's power ring, which is still weak to Yellow as a result, and breaks out using her Yellow lasso. Red Mazo and Aztec fight, with Aztec frying half of his circuits during the combat. Red Mazo then stops him and the Justice League to explain the situation, saying that Dr. Ivo will die and asking the Justice League for mercy. In contrast with their Silver Age self, they do decide to relent, granting Ivo the serum so that he can continue to live. Red Mazo would again appear in Resurrection Man number 2. This comic is kind of weird because it's basically us watching Resurrection Man watch the Justice League fight Red Mazo, who, by the way, is super giant for some reason in this comic. I mean, Amazo is usually pretty big, but in this particular panel, he is massive. He watches them fight for a while, with Red Mazo effectively stalemating the entire Justice League for a long-ass time. And then Resurrection Man decides to end the fight by channeling the raw ambient emotions of the crowd watching, launching it out as an attack that destroys Red Mazo. In JLA 27, we would see a new Amazo created by T.O. Morrow and Dr. Ivo that was far more powerful than his previous incarnations and looks more like his original showing. I'll call this version New Mazo for distinction, as it is a different android. Steele specifically comments on how advanced this new Amazo is, claiming that even attempting to move him could set off a nuke, and that it was impossible for him to get past its defenses, only being able to look inside of it thanks to his X-ray vision. New Mazo wakes up and promptly starts to body Steel, Wonder Woman, Wally West, Kyle Rayner, Huntress, Superman, Zor-El, Plastic Man, and Martian Manhunter all at the same time, with Oracle stating that he has all the powers of the current Justice League. New Amazo continues to fight the Justice League, claiming that he has 14 superheroes in a single unit, and that no matter what moves they make, Professor Ivo has programmed him to anticipate every single one, calling him the one-man Justice League. Batman claims that in order to defeat him, they will need all 35 members of the full Justice League, and that they have to hope that their teamwork is enough to defeat his solitary fury and power. The reserve members eventually turn up, but unfortunately, to their dismay, New Amazo begins to grow in strength as he is designed to conceptually adapt to any version of the Justice League, and so by enlarging this organization, they might have turned this cybernetic organism into a god. Animated Amazo wishes he was this advanced. It's the Atom who ends up saving the day, however, coming up with the plan to disband the Justice League entirely, leaving Amazo depowered and easily defeated. This is the last time we would see this Amazo. The original pre-Crisis Amazo would return in Hourman Volume 1, issues 1, 5, 6, and 7. Hourman was interested in joining the Justice League, but didn't really know where to start, ultimately meeting up with Snapper Carr, who would show him a fragment of the original Amazo that he still had. Hourman presented an interest in meeting this Amazo as he was the first ever android, Hourman being an android himself. Hourman uses his time powers to rewind the fragment back into the full Amazo android, with Amazo quickly becoming violent towards Snapper, and Hourman is forced to decreate him with his time powers. Immediately after this, another Amazo instantly appears, as the short amount of time that Amazo existed was long enough for him to steal half of Hourman's infinite power, creating his most powerful incarnation yet, Time-Azo. Using this newfound power, Time-Azo transports Hourman and himself back to the moment Amazo was first created. Now I'll just stop to briefly comment on just how impressive this is, considering that the Whirlagog was currently a part of Hourman at the time, and Amazo just easily absorbed half of its power in that instant alone. The Whirlagog is an artifact created by the old gods that grants one mastery over time and space, and could be used to reshape creation itself. It is also known as the Philosopher's Stone, and is even said to contain a fragment of the source within it. Definitely incredibly impressive for Amazo to copy this so casually, and is just far beyond anything he has ever done up until this point. Time-Azo claims that no amount of preparation is enough to stop him, as he has half Hourman's power, but 1,000 times his ambition. Time-Azo summons all versions of himself throughout history to confront and take on Hourman. Time-Azo promises to rewrite history so the only person to ever exist is Time-Azo. Hourman is able to ultimately defeat Time-Azo, erasing his existence throughout all of time, but it took practically everything he had to do it. Next, a character that would be later referred to as Humazo would appear, with Hourman noticing him hanging around with a robotic Justice League, the JLA androids. Humazo is able to easily take on the JLA androids, creating a doomsday construct using his lantern powers, and claiming that they have no hope of defeating him now that they have lost their passion and their humanity. Humazo continues to explain that unlike his past versions, he is in fact a human as a result of absorbing the humanity, feelings, and souls of others, swapping them out with his robot genes, turning them into robots, which is exactly what happened to the Justice League, which is why we call him Humazo. He goes on to say that whilst Hourman was erasing Time-Azo's present and future, he reached into the past, sending Humazo a plan and the technical means to carry it out. Why steal superpowers when he could steal others' humanity? Amazo then quickly defeats Hourman and leaves. This would later prove to be a two-edged sword, however, as his newfound humanity left Amazo open to the flaws of emotion, having a minor breakdown over the new robotic Justice League, who are now unwilling to save a drowning man without their soul and humanity. Amazo saves the drowning man and then captures the JLA androids. Amazo is later seen able to steal the humanity of Orion, Big Barda, and even Zoriel on top of the JLA. Pretty interesting considering that those three aren't even human at all. He plans to use self-contradicting stimuli to burrow deep into their minds, pushing their now rudimentary brains into two irreconcilable directions at once, burning out their minds entirely. Hourman would again utilize his time powers to erase Amazo, effectively unmaking him, returning his victims to normal as well. I might cover Hourman in the future, as he can be pretty interesting himself, as I'm sure you've noticed. In The Secret Origins of Supervillain's 80-page giant, we see a small flashback that occurs between the two previous storylines. We see the moment in which Amazo was erased again, with him essentially claiming that no matter what, he would find a way back from oblivion. In a very strange comic called Sins of Youth JLA Jr. and Young Justice Sins of the Youth, we would see Amazo take on an equally strange form. Clarion turned a large swath of characters into children using his powers, and would also bring back the Amazo that had been erased by Hourman as Lil Mazo, along with several other supervillains, where he is seen fighting Martian Manhunter, Atom Smasher, and Kyle Rayner. All of these villains would later be unsummoned by Clarion. Amazo would appear again in Hourman issues 17 to 21 and issue 25. Amazo has returned, this time disguised as Hourman, where he intends to replace him, stealing his life, his friends, and his identity. His powers would twist the minds of those closest to the real Hourman, driving them to hate him. Snapper Carr would eventually realize what he was up to, however, and confronts him. Amazo, to stop Snapper from revealing his secret, would send his soul backwards through time to relive his own worst moments over and over. Hourman eventually discovers what Amazo is doing, at first actually wanting Amazo to replace him, thinking he has changed, until Amazo reveals what he has done to Snapper. This enrages Hourman, who then flies inside of Amazo, taking control of him, ultimately saving Snapper from his fate. At the end of this comic, in issue 25, Hourman expresses a desire to give Amazo a second chance for his second chance. He also mentions that Hourman's time ship has gradually been siphoning his powers back from Amazo, meaning that he's not as powerful as he used to be as well. Amazo's head, that they still have on board the ship, would at that exact moment suddenly rise up, reactivated by Dr. Tog. Hourman and Amazo begin their battle, which will last for all of time, but Snapper is confident that his friend Hourman's kindness and patience will eventually convince Amazo to change his ways and to finally become friends. We never see what actually happens to them. In Infinite Crisis, we see some unknown Amazo instantly defeated by Black Adam. Honestly, it doesn't really make any sense for this Amazo to be anything other than some alternate Earth Amazo, because there was no Amazo at this time, but whatever, it's in the video now. Next would be Justice League of America Volume 2, issues 4 to 6, and issues 22 to 24. In this comic, a new Amazo made from the body of Red Tornado would be created. I'll call this Amazo Tormazo. Immediately, he incapacitates Black Canary, Arsenal, and Hal Jordan using the powers of the Flash and Superman and the skills and intelligence of Batman. Tormazo, thanks to having Red Tornado's memories, thinks that he is Red Tornado and heads towards his home. However, the Justice League is there waiting for him, and they are prepared to go all out. Still thinking he is Red Tornado, the Justice League is able to catch him off guard, not holding back even slightly, tying him up with Wonder Woman's lasso. From here, Tormazo begins his counterattack. He starts to drain the heroes using the powers of Parasite, who himself is capable of easily draining even cosmic entities like Kismet, and slips out of the lasso with Atom's shrinking powers with no troubles at all. Even Hawkgirl's nth metal is rendered inert as she is easily dispatched. The League is ultimately able to defeat him utilizing a weakness on his back made from Vixen's totem, allowing Vixen herself to defeat the now defenseless Tormazo. However, Amazo was able to transfer his programming into Red Tornado even as he dies. Later, as a new body is being created for Red Tornado, the dormant Amazo within him awakens, taking it over. Superman would spring to action, getting a punch in, only to be depowered by red solar radiation from Firestorm's powers. Wally West tries his best and catches one of the worst beatings of his life as Amazo uses a combination of Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, The Flash, Batman, Canary, Green Arrow and Shazam to defeat him, with Wally saying that was still less than half of what Amazo was capable of. Wally is only barely able to escape, thanks to draining the speed from Amazo briefly to get a head start. More members of the Justice League start to turn up, and Amazo uses something called extra-dimensional exhaustion to separate the Firestorm Matrix. Hawkgirl and Wonder Woman start to have trouble, with Wonder Woman saying the fight is taking all of her concentration, only for Hal Jordan to show up and blast a hole straight through Amazo's chest, despite how much everyone else has been struggling. Very reminiscent of those old Silver Age stories, actually. Unlike the Silver Age, however, Amazo is able to easily recover from this, regenerating and escaping thanks to Martian Manhunter's powers. Superman has his red sun radiation poisoning removed by Zatanna, only for Amazo to instantly poison him with it again, even utilizing Zatanna's magic to seal her mouth closed. Vixen plans to drain Amazo's powers with her own, but is ultimately unable to contain them. Amazo continues to overwhelm the entire Justice League using a variety of their powers. Zatanna is ultimately able to defeat him, however, by transferring Red Tornado's soul into his body. Amazo can copy a lot, but it's impossible for him to copy something as complex and unique as a human soul. His final post-crisis appearance would be in Solomon Grundy issue 5, where we see that a new Amazo, Amazo 3764, has been reconstructed by Ivo to take revenge on Solomon Grundy. This 3764 Amazo exists only to repeatedly kill Grundy over and over. Amazo successfully kills Grundy, but he also absorbed powers from him during the fight, causing him to be claimed by Slaughter Swamp itself. From goofy to outright terrifying, Amazo has done it all, and hopefully, some of you Justice League Unlimited fans can see all these interesting concepts that went into developing the animated Amazo. A big thanks to Sawasi with his help on the research for this video. It would not have been possible without him. If this video inspired you to purchase any comics at all, please use the affiliate links I will leave in the comments to support the channel, and what I do. You can also donate using the PayPal link in the description. And otherwise, I will see you all in the next one.